The only male among them, asterisk the cell was cold. Hard stone beneath his back. Dim purple lights blinked on the ceiling, casting long shadows across the cracked walls. His name was Luke, a mechanic, nothing more. He wasn't a soldier, not a spy, not even a diplomat. Just a man who fixed broken things on the edge of space. But no, he was in a prison that wasn't human. The door slid open with a hiss, and in stepped two guards. Tall, armored in glowing silver suits, and not human at all. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but their voices were sharp and clear. "Get up, male. The warden wants to see you." Luke didn't argue. He stood, his muscles still aching from the last transport. He followed them through a long hallway that smelled like metal and something bitter. Alien tech buzzed on the walls. Strange voices echoed in the distance. Screams, laughter, shouting in languages he didn't understand. Finally, the door ahead opened. The room inside was massive, part throne room, part command center. On a high platform sat the warden. She was not like the others. Tall, her skin a shade of violet, eyes like ice. Her voice was cold. "You are the first human male ever captured in our sector," she said. Luke stayed quiet. "This is a prison for elite female soldiers," she continued. "They are dangerous, rebellious. Some are war criminals. Others ... traitors. You are a mistake. But now, you are ours." He didn't flinch. "So why am I alive?" The warden's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Because we're curious. And perhaps you'll amuse them. Survive a week, and maybe we'll talk again." The guards pushed him out without another word. They dropped him into a massive cell block. No cages, no cells. It was a city within walls. Strange buildings, smoke in the air, and hundreds of alien women all staring at him. Some looked shocked. Some looked hungry. Some looked like they hadn't seen a male in decades. He kept walking. Eyes watched him. Whispers followed him. He could feel the tension, like standing in a jungle with predators in every shadow. He passed a group of tall soldiers, scarred and armed with knives made of bone. He walked past alien women with sharp claws, glowing eyes, or scales on their skin. Then came a laugh. From the corner, one of them stepped forward. She had long dark hair, bright blue markings on her face, and a smirk that said trouble. "Well," she said, "what are you supposed to be?" "Luke," he replied, standing tall. "Human, mechanic, not looking for a fight." The group behind her laughed. "A mechanic? Oh, stars." They threw a tool boy into the pit. "This is going to be fun." But then the ground shook. Everyone froze. The lights flickered red. An alarm sounded, a deep, rising hum. From the walls, loudspeakers crackled. Warning. Energy surge in reactor core. All prisoners return to designated zones. Level 5 lockdown initiating. Panic spread fast. Prisoners ran. Guards shouted orders. Sirens screamed, but Luke didn't move because he had heard something else. Beneath the alarms, a low rumble. A system failing. He whispered, "That's not just a surge. That's a meltdown starting." The woman with blue markings looked at him. "What?" He turned to her. "Where's your power room?" She raised a brow. "Why?" "Because if I don't get there in 5 minutes, this whole place is going to blow." A mechanic in the reactor core. Luke didn't wait for permission. He moved fast, cutting through the crowd of confused prisoners. Some were panicking. Some just stood frozen. But he had no time for that. The woman with the blue face markings followed him. "Wait, where are you going?" "To save this place," Luke shouted back. "If the reactor blows, none of us walk out alive," she growled. "That's suicide. The guards won't even go near the lower levels during lockdown. Then I'll go alone." She cursed and sprinted beside him. Name's Kara. Don't make me regret this, mechanic. The guards were too distracted to stop them. Doors slammed shut. Lockdown began. Red lights blinked everywhere. But Luke saw a vent, low near the floor, partly open. He dropped to one knee and pulled it free. Kara blinked. You fit in there? Barely, he said. But I've crawled through tighter places on Earth. They entered the shaft, crawling fast through heat and metal. Kara grumbled the whole way. You really think you can stop a meltdown? If I'm lucky. If not, we all glow in the dark. The vent opened into a control room. No guards, just flickering screens and loud alarms. A central console blinked, with warning symbols. Luke didn't know the alien language, but tech was tech. Wires, circuits, logic. Kara looked around nervously. You understand any of this? He stepped to the main panel. Some of it, but this looks like a fusion loop fail. The coolant isn't moving. He tore off the bottom panel and crawled underneath. The smell of burnt metal hit him hard. Wires melted. Tubes hissed with steam. Sparks shot out. He reached into his boot and pulled out a small multi-tool they hadn't taken from him. Probably missed it during processing. He grinned. Thank you, lazy guards. Kara looked over her shoulder. We've got maybe 4 minutes before those backup cores go critical. Luke spoke fast. See that blue switch? When I say go, flip it. But only once I say understood. She nodded. He cut one wire, reconnected 2 others, rerouted power manually. It was risky. One wrong move and he'd fry himself. Now, he shouted. Kara slammed the blue switch. The core hissed. Lights blinked green. Alarms silenced. The loudspeaker buzzed. Emergency override successful. Reactor stabilized. Luke exhaled and leaned back. His shirt was soaked. His hands burned. But he smiled. Kara stared at him. You just saved a prison full of war criminals. Not all of them are war criminals, Luke said quietly. Some just got caught in the wrong war. Guards finally arrived late and confused. They surrounded both of them, weapons raised. Step away from the controls. One shouted. Luke raised his hands. Relax, I just saved your core. They didn't care. A black uniformed officer stepped forward. You're not authorized to be here. You'll be punished. Kara stood in front of Luke. Touch him, and I'll rip your arm off. The officer paused. You dare threaten a command officer? She didn't flinch. This human just kept us all from dying. If you're too blind to see that, then maybe you're the one who needs punishment. Luke stepped forward. Listen, I don't care about your ranks or rules, but this place is falling apart, and I can fix it. But not if I'm locked away. Again, the officer hesitated. Then turned to a communicator. Contact the warden. Tell her the male survived. And he saved the facility. Back in the cell block, rumors were already spreading. The male stopped the meltdown. He walked into the reactor and lived. He's not just a mechanic, he's a miracle. As Luke and Kara were escorted back, eyes followed them again. But this time, there was no mockery, no hunger, no threat. Only respect. Kara smirked as they passed a group of tall fighters. They're starting to look at you like you're a leader. I'm not a leader, Luke said. Maybe not, she replied. But you're the only one around here who can keep us alive. The deal with the warden. Luke stood still as the thick metal doors slid open again. This was the second time he had been brought to the warden's chamber. But this time, it felt different. Last time, he was nothing. No, he was the reason the prison was still standing. The warden sat on her tall throne, arms crossed, face calm but cold. Behind her, screens showed different parts of the prison riot zones, repair zones, guards patrolling tighter than before. You disobeyed the system. she said sharply. I saved your power core, Luke answered, not looking away. You'd be dead without me. There was a long silence. The guards didn't even breathe. Then the warden nodded slowly. Correct. You fixed it, something our own engineers couldn't do in time. I didn't do it for you, Luke said. I did. It because I didn't want to burn. She stood and walked down the steps toward him. Her tall form loomed over him, but Luke didn't back down. You are a human. A male. You do not belong here. Yet. You may have value, she said. I have a proposition. Luke narrowed his eyes. Go on. You will not return to the general cells. Instead, you will be moved to the engineering wing. You will assist in repairing this facility under guard. In exchange, you will be given food, safety, and fewer beatings. Luke chuckled dryly. Fewer beatings. Great deal. You'll also have access to the prisoner network, the warden added. They already speak your name. Some follow you now. That could be ... useful. He looked at her sharply. You want me to control them? I want order. You can help me get it, she replied. Help me fix this place, calm the chaos ... and I'll keep you alive. Luke didn't answer right away. He thought about Kara, the way she stood up for him, the way others were starting to trust him. He wasn't a fighter, but maybe, just maybe, he could be something else here. Fine, he said, but I want a workshop, my own tools, and Kara stays with me. The warden raised an eyebrow. The blue-marked traitor? She saved me. And I trust her, Luke said firmly. The warden turned, walking back to her throne. You ask for much, human. No more than I've earned, he replied. She paused, then gave a single nod. Agreed. Luke was escorted to a different level of the prison, far away from the noise and madness of the main cell blocks. This area was quiet or dusty, full of machines that hadn't worked in years. Old consoles, broken servos, cracked piping. His new home. They gave him a corner room, barely bigger than a closet. But it had light, a real bed, and best of all, tools. Kara arrived later, escorted by a grumpy guard who looked ready to punch. Someone. She looked around and grinned. Well, well. You really did get promoted. Luke laughed. More like I got a job offer I couldn't refuse. They started working that same day. Pipes fixed. Screens rebooted. Power restored to damaged sections. Luke repaired things fast, while Kara kept watch and scared off anyone who came too close. Within 2 days, rumors spread wider. The mail could fix anything. He even got the water running again. He speaks to the warden and walks freely. Some called him Toolmaster. Some called him the Quiet Leader. Others just called him Hope. But not everyone liked him. Far from the repair wing, deep in the older blocks of the prison, a group of strong, scarred prisoners gathered. He's changing things. One of them growled. The guards let him walk, said another. Worse ... He's making the others listen. They look at him when they should fear us. A third leaned forward, face cold. Then we remind them. Remind everyone that power here doesn't come from fixing wires. It comes from pain. They all nodded ... and began to plan ... Back in the workshop. Luke tightened a bolt and stood up, wiping sweat from his face. Kara tossed him a drink pouch and leaned against the wall. You know, she said, this place feels different now. Because something's working? Luke asked ... She shook her head. Because they believe. In you. Luke sighed. That scares me more than the meltdown. And deep inside the prison, danger was already moving toward him. The first attack? The workshop was quiet that night. Too quiet. Luke lay on the floor under a broken generator, covered in dust, hands deep. Inside tangled wiring. Kara leaned against the doorway. watching the hallway with half-closed eyes. She had been acting more alert lately, like something was coming. Something wrong? Luke asked, not looking up. Kara's eyes flicked to the shadows. I don't like the silence. Even in a place like this, silence can be louder than noise. Luke grunted. That's a strange way to put it. She frowned. It's the only way I can explain it. Then the power flickered. Once. Twice. Then came the bang. A sharp explosion rocked the hallway just outside the workshop. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights dimmed. Sirens started howling. Kara drew her blade instantly. Stay down. 3 figures rushed into the hallway, tall, armored, masked. Not guards, prisoners. They weren't there to talk. Kara charged first, catching one off guard with a blow to the head. The second tried to stab her, but she twisted, kicking hard. The third slipped past and headed for Luke. Luke didn't run. He stood up, holding the only thing he had, a wrench. The attacker lunged at him. He stepped aside at the last second and slammed the wrench into her back. She stumbled. Kara tackled her from behind. It was over in less than a minute, but the message was clear. Later, as they tied the attackers up, Luke looked at Kara. Why now? She wiped blood from her blade. They've been watching, waiting. You made this place better, so they decided to break it. Who were they? Kara looked grim. One of them used to lead her own block. She doesn't like losing power, and she won't stop with this. Luke sighed. So now I have enemies. You always did, Kara said. But now they're brave enough to act. The next morning, the warden summoned him again. The warden stared at Luke. Then the guards brought in the 3 captured attackers. They were silent, but their eyes burned with hate. The warden's voice was cold. They broke into a restricted area. Attacked staff. Attacked you. Luke nodded. They failed. But others will try, the warden said. You've become more than just useful. You've become visible. Luke frowned. You knew this would happen. The warden did not deny it. You gave me freedom to do work. But you didn't warn me about them. They test strength, she said. If you are to be seen as more than prey, you must pass their tests. Luke's jaw tightened. This isn't a game. No, she replied. It's survival. That has always been the rule here. He looked at the 3 prisoners again. What happens to them? The warden shrugged. Execution. Unless you choose something else. Luke thought for a long moment. Put them to work, he said. No weapons, no rights. But if they build instead of destroy, maybe they'll learn something. The warden blinked. Mercy? No, Luke replied. Punishment with purpose. She considered this, then nodded. Very well. Back in the workshop, Kara was already repairing the wall damage. She glanced at Luke as he returned. They're not dead, she said flatly. No, he replied. They'll work under me. She shook her head. That's risky. Everything in this place is risky. Kara stood straight. Then you'd better make sure they follow your orders. If they don single quotes T. I will handle them. Luke looked at her. Thanks. Kara crossed her arms. Don't thank me. Just keep surviving. That night, Luke sat on the edge of his bunk, thinking. He had fixed reactors, stopped fights. Now he was giving orders, but something felt off. He wasn't just fixing machines anymore. He was changing people. And the prison was changing him too. Far across the cell blocks, the leader of a larger gang heard the news. The male had survived. He had taken enemies and turned them into workers. Worse, he had gained even more respect. The leader stood, her eyes cold. If the warden won't crush him, she said, we will. Plans began, and Luke's biggest challenge was yet to come. Asterisk. The gang leader's ultimatum. Asterisk. Luke had just finished repairing a broken power relay when Kara walked in with tense eyes. "You're being summoned," she said. He looked up, wiping sweat from his brow. "I the warden again?" Kara shook her head. "No, by her." Luke paused. He didn't need to ask who her was. Everyone in the prison knew about Dura. She ran the largest gang in the prison strong, ruthless and feared. Her followers controlled the lower levels. Even the guards didn't patrol that zone, unless they moved in groups. Now she wanted to speak to him. Luke grabbed his tool belt and stood. "Let's not keep her waiting." The lower level was nothing like the rest of the prison dot. It was dark, wet, full of smoke and strange lights. Gang members watched. From every corner, armed with sharp makeshift weapons. They didn't speak. They just followed Luke and Kara, with their eyes. At the center of it all was Dora. She sat on a throne of broken machines, pipes rising behind her like a crown. She was taller than most, with gray skin and long arms covered in scars. Her eyes were gold, and her voice was like grinding stone. "So," she said slowly, "this is the human." Luke stayed calm. "Name's Luke. You asked to see me." Dora stood. "You're shaking things. Fixing what should stay broken. Changing what should stay the same." Luke shrugged. "I'm just a mechanic." "No," Dora said. "You're a problem." She walked down the steps of her throne, stopping right in front of him. "You've made the weak believe they are strong. You gave prisoners hope. Is that a bad thing?" Luke asked. "In this place?" Dora is. "Yes, because hope breeds rebellion, and rebellion breeds death." Luke stood his ground. "Then maybe this place needs to change." Dora laughed. It was deep and sharp. Bold words from a soft man. "I've survived things most people wouldn't walk away from," Luke said. "And I've kept this prison from turning into a crater." She leaned in. "Then I give you a choice. Stop fixing. Stop talking. Stay out of my way. Or I'll burn your little workshop down with you and your friend inside it." Kara stepped forward, her hand on her blade. "Try it." Dora didn't flinch. "You can't protect him from all of us." Luke raised a hand to stop Kara. Then he looked Dora in the eye. "You're scared." Dora's eyes narrowed. "What?" "You're afraid." "Not of me. Of what I represent. Change, order, a new kind of power. One that doesn't come from knives. And threats." Dora growled low. "You have one day to decide. Bend or break." Then she turned her back and walked away. Back in the workshop, Kara slammed her fist on the table. "We should have taken her head off right there." "She has over 50 followers," Luke said calmly. "She's been ruling this place for years. If we strike first, we start a war." "She already declared war," Kara snapped. Luke nodded. "Then we fight smarter." He walked to the wall and grabbed a small screen from a crate. "We send a message." That night, across the prison, every active terminal and screen blinked with a new broadcast dot. It was Luke. Standing in the workshop, he spoke clearly, simply. "This place is broken. You know it. I've seen it. You've lived it. We're treated like animals because we act like animals. I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking you to help build something better." He held up a power cell he'd repaired. "This cell ran out of power a year ago. Now it lights up an entire block. I fixed it. Not alone. With help." The screen zoomed in on his face. "You can burn things down if you want. Or you can help. Build. Choice is yours." Then the screens went dark. Silence fell across the prison. Some laughed, some got angry, but others stopped and thought. Dora stood in her dark chamber, staring at the blank screen. She turned slowly to her lieutenants. "He just made the first move," she said, and then she gave a new order. "Burn everything he touches." In the shadows of the upper levels, others watched as well. Prisoners who had remained quiet. Now they began to whisper. Maybe. Just maybe? The human was worth following. The battle for the workshop. The workshop was quiet again, but this time it felt like the air was holding its breath. Luke sat at the center table, staring at his tools. Kara stood near the doorway, arms crossed, every muscle in her body tense. They both knew what was coming. She hit tonight, Kara said. Luke nodded. We ready? Kara gave a short nod. I've placed traps in the hallway. Got a few friends standing guard outside. Friends? Luke asked with a small smile. She smirked. You made a few believers. They think you're worth protecting. I'm not so sure. Luke chuckled. Good enough for me. Outside the workshop, the air was filled with tension. 5 prisoners who once followed Dora now stood with Kara and Luke. They had left Dora quietly after his speech, not because they trusted him, but because he offered something Dara. Did a future and that future was under attack. The first explosion came without warning. A pipe burst near the entrance. Steam hissed. Screams followed. Then the lights went out. Figures moved in the dark, silent, fast. Weapons drawn. Faces painted. Dora's fighters had come. Kara shouted, Positions! The defenders took cover behind workbenches and broken machines. Luke grabbed a steel pipe and stayed low. The fight was chaos. Kara moved like a storm blades flashing in the dark. She knocked down 2 attackers before one hit her shoulder with a pipe. She roared and slammed the attacker against the wall. Luke wasn't fast, but he was smart. He led one of the gang members into a corner filled with old power coils. Then he yanked a switch. Electric sparks flew. The attacker screamed and dropped. Stunned, the defenders held strong for a while, but Dora's gang kept coming. They had more fighters, more rage, and no fear. Luke was backed into a corner when he heard Kara yell, Fall back to the storage room. Everyone rushed to the small metal room in the back of the workshop. Kara slammed the door and locked it. They were trapped. Can't hold them here forever, one of the defenders said. Blood on her arm. Kara panted, eyes scanning the walls. We need a way out. Luke looked around. Then he saw it. A vent. Just like the one he used during the first meltdown. It leads to the old waste tunnels, he said. Might be unstable, but it's a way out. Kara nodded. Then we go. Now. They crawled through the narrow tunnels, heat and smoke pressing on their backs. Behind them, the workshop burned. They heard the metal crack and fall. Luke didn't. Look back. They emerged in an abandoned lower block, filled with rust and silence. Kara stood, wiping soot from her face. We lost the workshop. Luke looked around. We lost a building. Not the idea. One of the defenders asked. What? Now? Luke looked at them. Then he pointed to the broken systems around them. Dead lights, crushed walls, empty machines. We rebuild. Again. But they'll come again, someone said. Luke nodded. Then we make sure next time we're not just ready. Back, near the ruins of the workshop, Dora stood over the ashes. Her fighters cheered, but she did not smile. He's still alive, one of them said. Dora stared into the smoke. Yes, and now he's angry. That night, Luke stayed awake, fixing what little he could. Kara sat beside him. Why not give up? They'll just keep coming. Luke didn't stop working. Because the only way they win is if I stop trying. Kara was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned her head back against the wall. You're the strangest man I've ever met. Luke smiled. Good? Normal didn't get me this far. Far above, in her command room, the warden watched the flames. On her screen, she tapped her fingers slowly. Let them burn each other, she said. The strongest will rise. But even she didn't know who that would be in the end. The rise of the human. Days passed. The old lower block was now alive with sound-welding sparks, grinding gears, the hum of power slowly returning. Luke worked without rest, fixing machines, restoring lights, and rebuilding broken systems from scrap. The others followed his lead. Prisoners once violent, hopeless, or forgotten were now digging trenches for wiring, sharing tools, learning from each other. They built something no one expected inside a prison made to break them. They built unity. Kara stood watch as always, but now she smiled more often. Her shoulder was healing. The fire in her eyes was sharp again. Luke handed her a small repaired drone. It can map tunnels. Maybe we can use it to track Dura's movement. Kara tested the drone and gave a nod. If she's coming, we'll see her before she sees us. But Dura wasn't hiding. She was preparing for one final strike. Her rage had grown since the workshop was lost. She had lost followers. Some switched sides, others vanished. And worst of all, he was becoming more than a problem. He was becoming a symbol. So she marched with 15 hardened warriors. She charged toward the lower block, weapons raised, ready to crush the growing spark before it could become a flame. This time, Luke was waiting. The lower block's entrance had changed, no longer broken and dark. It was fortified, shielded, rewired. As Dura's gang stormed in, the lights flared. Traps triggered. Flashbangs exploded. Walls shot steam. And defenders rose from behind barriers, armed not with advanced weapons, but sharpened tools, metal rods, and homemade defenses. Luke stood at the center, holding a shield built from scrap, armor, and a pipe. He didn't give a speech. He just gave the signal. The battle began. Kara led the defense. She moved like a blur, her blade finding weak spots. Dura's gang was strong, but scattered. They didn't expect the unity they faced. One by one, they fell. Dura fought harder than anyone, knocking out 2 defenders, ripping through metal like it was paper. Then she found Luke. He stood his ground, blocking her first strike. She was stronger, faster, but Luke was smarter. He used every trick, redirecting her attacks, ducking under swings, using his surroundings. At last, he knocked her back with a heavy blow from his shield. She collapsed, gasping, wounded and shocked. "Just a mechanic," she growled. Luke knelt beside her. "No, I'm human. We don't give up." Dora looked at the defenders closing in, then back at Luke. She didn't resist when Kara tied her hands. The fight was over. Hours later, the defenders gathered in the center of the rebuilt block. Lights shone overhead bright and warm. The prisoners cheered, not because someone had won a fight, but because for the first time in years, they felt free, even if they were still inside walls. Luke stood before them, dirty and tired. He raised a hand. "I don't promise everything will be easy. I can't promise we'll never fight again. But I can promise one thing." He looked at each face, each scar, each eye filled with hope. "You're not alone anymore." The cheer that followed shook the very walls. In the command room above, the warden watched. One of her guards said, "Should we intervene?" The warden shook her head. "No, let him continue. But he's turning prisoners into a society." She gave a small smile. "And in doing so, he's fixed more in weeks than our guards have in years. Let the human lead. Perhaps he is exactly what this prison needed." Later, as the stars rose above the dark towers, Luke sat beside Kara on the rooftop of the lower block. She looked out at the prison. "You know they'll come again someday. New threats, new enemies." Luke nodded. "Then we build stronger, together." Kara smiled softly. "You were thrown in here by mistake, but somehow you became our only hope." Luke leaned back, looking at the stars. "Funny thing about hope. Once it starts growing, it's hard to kill. And in the heart of a prison built to crush spirits, one human had lit a fire no one could put out. Not with fear, not with violence, not ever again. The end